Good morning, church. And I'm so glad to meet all of you, and it is truly an honor to be able to serve in this place. My name is Gwelyn Utami. Go is fine, and if you have any jokes involving my name, please let me know because I would love to hear it. And I'm from Indonesia, and if you don't know where that is, it's above Australia, those islands. And my brother and I moved to Canada on 2013 following our mother, and we just become Canadian citizen last year. Yes. And yes, like what Phil said, I'm a fourth-year student at Horizon College and Seminary, and some of them are here too. Thank you for coming. And right now I'm serving as the church intern. And I got to be involved with this church. It starts with the project 2 years ago. Yes! Yeah, that is me and some of the senior girls with Alex and April. And it's just an honor to be able to connect with these people and connect with all of you because my ideas of church and community have been changed because of all of you. That I have a mission and you have a mission, and I believe that it is our duty to be out there in the community. And what I'm going to tell you today is what drives me to be better for our community. Because, of course, this passion in me starts when I was little, or as I would like to say, when I was young and dumb. So as a kid, I learned two very contradicting things from my parents. The first one is, you need to contribute something good to our society. If not, you're a garbage to our society. It's extreme. And the second one is all the do's and don'ts. Don't go to that place, don't hang out with those people, don't play dirty, don't hang out at night. You can imagine all of those because probably your parents do that too, and probably with some yelling. But now, as an adult, I learned that those do's and don'ts are boundaries that are important in my life. Boundaries exist to protect the important things in your life. It's to protect myself, protect the important people in your life, protect your resources, and even protect my alone time with God. And outside of my boundaries, what do I see? I see everything that I don't want to have in my circle. Chaos, hunger, poverty, obnoxious neighbors, the road that did not get shoveled, garbage, just even thinking about it, like, give me fear and worry. But then I remembered what my parents said. Don't go there, don't do that, it's dangerous. So I thought, I will not go to those things, I'll keep myself safe. But then I also heard the same voice said, do good to your society. So then I questioned myself, how am I going to make goods when I'm trying to keep myself safe? And my biggest conviction comes when I heard Jesus said as the most important commandment, and that is to love your God with all of your heart, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbors as yourself. And which one should I choose? To stay in the circle and strive, or go outside and risk myself to a greater danger? And to be honest, I found that pattern in the church, and probably not when you're in church, but I often seen it like throughout the weeks. We're responsible for not loving our neighbors in some ways. Last week, Pastor John talked about the importance of connecting with each other, how it sounds so easy, but yet it's so hard to do, which doesn't make any sense. Because connection is the result of intentional and genuine love. And this is why I think Connect Group in this place is so important, because we get to know each other intentionally and have meaningful relationship, and we're able to build each other's up in that Connect Group. And understanding the balance between boundaries and taking the risk is part of connecting. And I'm not saying boundaries is bad. You need to have boundaries in your life. They are good things. But when you're not willing to step out from your boundaries and not taking the extra step to love your neighbors, that is when it gets dangerous. Because when we start compromising God's standard, we lower it so much. Jesus asks us to love our neighbors. We compromise it into, I will love my neighbors as long as it's in our terms. Jesus asks, love your enemies. We compromise it into, I will love them if they stop hurting me. And if we, as a church, are supposed to be the answer for this broken world, can we truly say that we love our neighbors while neglecting them and watch them suffer? And in Acts 2, it describes how the first church in the first century, just like us, lived with each other. Like, here is a few description about this community. They devoted themselves to the teachings and to each other. There was a sense of awe because of these miracles, signs, and wonders. They intentionally meet with each other and share whatever that they have. They sold their belongings to for other people. They shared meals. They enjoyed each other. And what is the result? Their numbers were added every day in those who were being saved. I really wish we could be like that. But let's be real. We are pretty far from that, I think. Our selfishness have lowered God's standard that we don't want to take the risk to be out there, to be beyond our comfort zone. And it creates this image that people may see from outside. And you can correct me for that. We devoted ourselves to ourselves. We occasionally go to church if we have time. There's no sense of awe because there's no miracles, signs, and wonders. We had almost nothing in common because we got no time for each other. If we sold something, we used the money to buy something better for ourselves. We ate on the run. We're too busy to enjoy one another or even praising God. We claim to love God, but didn't really love each other. And often we felt empty and alone. And the results of those church is that most people dislike Christians, and very few people were ever saved. That is a very disturbing description because I know it's true in some sense in some churches these days. And it's not just describing the Sunday service. It describes every other day of the week because the church is not just the building. It's you and me from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and the rest of the day. And I know that description is just sounds so depressing and wrong. How come a church could be like that? But there is a solution for that. And we can find it in the Bible. So if you bring your Bible or have a Bible app in your phone, let's open Acts chapter 4, verse 32 to 35. Acts chapter 4, verse 32 to 35. And before we start reading it, I want you to know this. In the Gospels, you can find two important things aside from the stories what Jesus have done. Jesus have summarized hundreds of Jewish law into two equally important laws, and that is to love your God and to love your neighbors. And then at the end of the Gospel of Matthew and Mark, you can find Jesus' last instruction, and it usually have the heading called the Great Commission. And that is for the disciples to create more disciples and teaching what Jesus have taught. And this book Acts that we're going to read is the evidence of their obedience to what Jesus have asked them to do, the Great Commandment and the Great Commission. And as we already read from Acts 2, that this community is so irresistible and absolutely an extraordinary community. And in Acts 4, as we're going to read, one component stood out to me. And I think that is the key to reach out our community and the reason why better is together. So Acts 4, verse 32 to 35. So all the believers were united in heart and mind, and they felt what they owned was not their own, so they shared everything that they had. And I want you to circle that phrase, united in heart and mind. These believers believe in what Jesus taught, so they agree at least on two things that should become their vision and mission. The Great Commandment, that becomes their passion to love God and to love their neighbors. And the Great Commissions, to make disciples of all nations. That is their mindset, to share God's heart to other people. And because they have this same conviction, the same purpose in their hearts and minds, it creates this unity that leads to the next sentence, that they believe that what they own was not their own, and they shared everything that they had. And this sentence is very, very interesting and weird as well. Because you need to know that this is not 21st century Canada, where you have tax, welfare system, or social service where you get a help if you have low income. This is first century Roman Empire, where everyone is basically below poverty line. Everyone was oppressed by the Romans. So how come in a world where everyone is struggling, everyone is poor, probably only some of them that have few things that are precious, they shared everything they have and basically creating a welfare system for their society? And why? Because they agree that they must share with their neighbors. They agree that they must love their neighbors. The next verse says, the apostles testified powerfully to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and God's great blessing was upon them all. And I want you to notice two things here, their testimony and God's great blessing. So the apostles were sharing the Gospels, what happened in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, basically the big story that we always have on Easter. And somehow that powerful testimony brings great blessing into this community. And in this case, I think it's safe to say that the blessing includes some money or some kind of supply, because the next verse says the effect of those things. It says, there were no needy people among them, because those who own land and houses will sell them and bring the money to the apostles to give those in need. Remember that this is when most people are basically poor. I'm a college student, so I could relate. So to be in that community and to be able to give, and give, to the point that there were no needy people among them, that's a lot of sacrifice and risk to take. Selling houses and lands and then giving money to the apostles so that it can be distributed among the needy. Is that even possible? Canada has a welfare system, but somehow we still see many people among us that are so needy. So, a community where no one has a need, where no one needs to worry about anything, where no one is feeling lonely and empty. Can you imagine that? Like, how crazy it is. Someone is willing to sell their house or their cars or their time or their preferences or their hobbies just so that you can have your needs fulfilled. And everything is out of love, no strings attached. And if someone asks, why are you doing this? Isn't that just a great segue or a great intro to share the amazing love of God for this world? Real love is never about feeling. Real love is always reaching out to fulfill a human need. Love is always an action with the right attitude. Because love bridges the gap between God and this broken world. I mean, look at Jesus. He is the bridge. He is fulfilling the need everyone that he met. When someone was sick, he healed them. When someone was bullied and tortured, he protected them and gave them comfort. When someone is just hated by the society, he spent his time with them and gave them respect. When a crowd of people are hungry, he fed them. And I think this is what the church in Acts 4 did. Their unity is so strong that they are pushed to make an action. They saw the need among them, and they fulfill it. It can be either food or debt or the crazy tax among them, or the orphans, the ones on the street, the ones on the deathbed, the ones that is hated by the society. So if you're saying all of these needs around you is too much for you, I have good news for you. You're not alone. You have all of us. You have community of believers, because what is written in that text is not I or me or you or someone's names. It's a group of people with one purpose, and that is to fulfill a need in our community. And that will be the most Christ-like thing we could ever do and show the world who Christ is. So what can we contribute to our community? I would ask you to slow down and look around you. You can look your left and right. You can imagine the people and the places outside of this building. Because we have been so busy and we become numb and blind to our surroundings. And when you look around, what stirs your heart? What really bugs you? For me, whenever I look at the prayer request on that wall, I see a lot of need. And it pushed me to do something. And it even pushed me to ask God, God, help me. Give me inspiration. Give me what to do, Liz. And if you say, I don't have time for something or something or something, try say this instead. That thing is not important for me. And see how that feels. You might have different priorities, but at the end, Jesus called us to love our neighbors. So instead of saying, I don't have time for my neighbors, let's see how it feels when I said, my neighbors is not important for me. And just let that sink for a bit. Because if there's one thing that you get from this service, please get this. What is written in that wall is our dreams and vision as a church. We want to be a church that loves Jesus so much that we want to build lives inside and outside of this church. And what are you going to do when you see those needs? What are you willing to give? Because if right now you're feeling like, oh no, she's going to ask for money for the church. Please know that I'm not just asking you for your money. But if you do feel compelled to do so, like, go ahead. Because I'm asking you to take the risk and get out from your comfort zone. Be humble. Stop making excuses for yourself and seize the moment to show your love to your neighbor. You are accountable before God for what you have decided in your heart. Not for me, not even for any pastors or anyone to see, but for God. Because your heart matters more to God than what you can do or what you can give. So what I challenge you now might seem very overwhelming and intimidating to get out from your comfort zone. Duh. Because I know it's hard for me. But that's okay. We are aiming something bigger than ourselves. But do we let circumstances stop our faith, dream, and vision that God has put in our lives? No. That is where you should get excited and daring and be bold and courageous to face all the risk. Church, please know that I am very blessed to be a part of you all, to be able to work with you and with Pastor John, Pastor Alex, and Pastor Garrett. They always let me know that I am not alone in this ministry of serving others. They challenge me to become better because our community out there deserves better. And I want to say the same thing to you too, that we are better together, that we can reach our community together. We have seen the hurt and the suffering in this community, and they need you. And can you imagine if we love our community as the result of loving Jesus, just like what our vision has? It will be a powerful testimony, and it should be in the praise list over there. Like if someone come to know Christ because someone or a group of people just decided to reach out and sacrificing what they have and take the extra step and fulfill a need. Can you imagine if all of us are united together in our hearts and minds, agreeing not just on theological terms or sermons or worship songs, but in our commitments and in our actions, that when we see a need, we face it together and not just by ourselves. Because we are better together, we're stronger together, we will have bigger influence and bigger impact, and we can reach more people. We can come up with different methods to reach our community, but no matter what, we must be relentless in what we want. And what we want is to show love to our community. So can you imagine if we, as Carpenter's Church, willing to work together with other churches in the city, or even outside of the city, and overcome our differences and reach our city of Saskatoon and beyond? Isn't that what we call revival? We can change the culture. We know the darkness and the fear and the suffering that people face in this city. And you and I are called to do something about them. We should not be afraid because, first of all, they are the same, just like us. We're broken, they are broken. But we have a hope in Jesus Christ that can bring restoration and that He called us to love. So just think about how many families that can be restored with this hope and how they can just bring changes into their community, and this hope just spread like wildfire to every corner of the city. And when people ask, how does this happen? How? It doesn't make any sense. We've never seen this. You could say, because we want to work together to love our neighbors. And if we want to love them, we need to care for their needs. And when they ask, why? We could say, because we love our God with all of our hearts and soul and strength, and we are called to love our neighbors as ourselves. I will leave you with a challenge here. How far are you willing to go to love your community and meet their needs? Are you willing to take the risk? Remember that we can give more than just our finances. And probably the best thing that you can give is yourself. Giving your time, giving your attention, giving your ears to listen, and respect those who are neglected by this city. and where we are stepping out from our comfort zone and meet those needs, they will know that we have something different, something that the world can offer. And as our impact grows, we are creating a legacy for this community and the next generation, so that as we pass away, what are they going to see? Are they going to see Christians that stayed in a church once a week or less, that have no hope, even though they call themselves Christian? Or united people that love God with all of their hearts, soul, and strengths, and love their neighbors to the point that there's no needy people in their community? You can decide. God bless you.